outpost spotted. Prepare to exterminate. Sending in an eagle. Tunnel breach. Tagging location. West.
Tagging map. Northwest. Far.
Requesting orbital.
Firing orbital barrage. Clear the area.
Aiming at an eagle.
There we go.
Throwing supply beacon.
Oh. Of course, I forgot to get vertical mag.
Calling in orbital strike.
Requesting air support.
Attack underway.
The clip you just saw was me attempting to use one of the most underrated primary weapons in Helldivers 2 in order to clear a bug nest solo that, let's be honest here, I had no right attempting solo, and as seen in the clip, I eventually just gave up, used a 380 like a normal person. The CB9 exploding crossbow, usually just referred to as the Crossbow, is possibly one of the greatest fall-offs for a video game weapon I have seen since maybe the Babyface's blaster from Team Fortress 2. And why is that? Well, for starters, its stats. It has a damage of 620, just a smidge under twice that of a point-blank breaker shot, so can't be that. A magazine capacity of 5 isn't helping things, but the Eruptor does far less damage and has the same capacity, so it obviously isn't that. Maybe it's the recoil. No, the recoil is fairly non-existent given its slow rate of fire allows for recoil adjustment almost instantly. And the ergonomics is fine. It's the same as the Liberator, the stock Liberator. It's one-handed even, so you can use it with shields, you can pick stuff up with it, like mutated eggs, valuable data, etc., etc. And it's explosive, it's medium armor penetration, it can take out bug nests, warp ships, and even bot fabricators if you hit them at just the right angle. So then, if it's so good as a weapon, stat-wise, then why in Liberty's name does it get treated like absolute shit? Putting it simply, power creep. Power creep, as defined by Google AI, is a gradual increase in strength of new weapons, items, or units in a video game to a point of making other weapons feel useless or even obsolete. Looking at it like that makes this whole thing start to make more sense. One explosive primary, the Eruptor can one-tap almost every medium enemy in the game, such as Devastators, Brood Commanders, Hive Guards, and Overseers. If you want a one-handed weapon in your primary slot, there are 4 SMGs that fit the bill. If you just want a one-handed weapon, the entirety of the secondary weapon slot clears that easily, and even the new stratagem in the form of the One True Flag helps with that, as it is a one-handed weapon despite its large size. And if you want general chaff clear, every weapon not called the Plaz 39 or any of the marksman rifles clears that easily. And the worst part is, the last balance change for the crossbow during the 60-day patches was a buff to its explosion radius and damage. And even before that, it was used so frequently on both factions at the time that it was hard for me to find a bug mission where someone wasn't using the crossbow. But since then, as you can see, it's fallen off. So is the CB9 relegated to just a shittier Ruptor downgrade until the next balance patch does something to it, does something to change it, does something to improve it? Fuck no. How can you, one of Super Earth's elite Helldivers, use this forgotten beauty? Well, first off, against the bugs, the crossbow is best used on blitz, search, and destroy mission types, as it functions great if you're running the thermite, as the thermite is the best option for immediate anti-tank. However, it struggles against popping nests or anything that requires consistent damage upkeep, which is what the crossbow excels at. And for those missions, I cannot recommend anything but the SR-24 Street Scout armor, as those 10 extra bolts that you get from the Siege Ready armor passive will come in clutch when the destroyers have left orbit, and there's still a minute and a half left on the Pelican 1, speaking from experience. But for personal use, I'd pair it with any fortified armor passive if you're not used to the blast radius, or the GS-17 Frontier Marshal if you do know the blast radius well, so you can fall back on your secondary more easily for when the bugs inevitably close that distance, especially on the Predator strain. Speaking of secondary weapons, I would recommend either the P-113 Verdict or the P-4 Senator, as both can easily destroy the enemies of freedom in close to mid-range with relative precision. The last 58 Talon serves a similar purpose, and ideally would work better due to its theoretical infinite ammo. However, when you get jumped by a stalker from the middle of nowhere, it's a lot easier to mag dump a Verdict or pop it in the head a couple times with the Senator than to end up inevitably mag dumping the Talon and having to reload that, which wastes one of your Talon's precious heat sinks, more than likely on accident. Finally, for grenades, like I said earlier, the G123 Thermite is your best option. If you have the crossbow, you have access to the Thermite, as they're from the same Warbond Democratic detonation. The Thermite can easily deal with any enemy with one well-placed stick. However, they are best used on Bile Titans, Chargers, and on occasion Impalers, as the Thermite is designed to break through anti-tank armor. As for stratagems, the heavy machine gun, as seen in the clip, is great for dealing with thick enemy units when you're not in range for Thermite to be effective. Couple that with the Goodest Boy the Guard Dog, Standard Edition, and any Eagle stratagem of your choice, and you've got yourself a ticket to infinite E710 farming. That last slot, bring the 380. You know you want to. Now, against those socialist toasters, I'd recommend not even bringing the crossbow. But, since I know you're at least going to try anyway, I'd recommend the same loadout, however, for different reasons. The fortified armor is now your best choice, as opposed to the gunslinger armor sets, as it means Annihilator tanks and rocket devastators found on almost any difficulty can't ragdoll you halfway across the map, or even worse, one-tap you. The gunslinger armor is still a reasonable choice, however, it isn't your best choice, as I said, but it can improve the Verdict or Senator to make them even better fallback options. Thermite, like I said, still reigns supreme here. However, for stratagems, I recommend either the good old reliable recoilless rifle to deal with tanks and factory striders on higher difficulties, or the old railgun shield pack combo used back on release, as you'd be surprised how viable it still is today with all the buffs and changes to both stratagems. As for the autocratic calamari, the CQC2 Saber combined with the honorary guard armor does wonders when the voteless and even the flesh mobs get in just a tad too close for explosive weapons such as the crossbow to be viable. And here is where I'd recommend making good use of the crossbow's one-handed property by making use of the directional shield released in the Urban Warfare Warbond to give both you and your fellow Helldivers a bit of cover. Utilizing that with the Commando rocket launcher to deal with the pesky stingrays, plus a lawn chair for the harvesters, and you have got yourself a premium calamari dish once you get back up to your destroyer. Hey, this is Ashe, General of the 502nd Support Corps, and I just wanted to say this series is going to be very long, but ideally I will end up covering everything in the game, so if you want to see more content like this, subscribe, like the video so more of our Helldiver siblings can see these guides. That'd be great. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.